He spent years perfecting the hunt, women lured to his isolated farm, released into the old barn, and chased through rusted cars until their screams fade to silence. Jack never loses, until the day she moves in across the road. Short black hair, tight jeans, white tank, boots that have walked through blood before. She waves at him through his own binoculars, like she already knows. Two predators, one barn full of ghosts. Only one walks out alive. When the hunter becomes the hunted, somebody has to go down hard. Think Dexter meets natural-born killers in a grindhouse fever dream. In the middle of nowhere, where the county road turned to gravel and then to dust, Jack West lived alone on a sprawling, forgotten farm with only his black Labrador, Casey, for company. To the outside world, if anyone had ever bothered to look, he was just a quiet, clean-cut man in his late 30s who kept to himself. Inside, he was something else entirely. A hunter, a collector of screams. The land had belonged to his grandfather. Now it belonged to him, and he had turned every acre of it into his private killing ground. There were two barns. The new one was spotless, tools hung neatly, hay bales stacked like bricks. The old one was a rotting cathedral of rust and shadows, filled with decaying classic cars, a butter-yellow 60s VW Beetle, a cobalt blue Chevy van with porthole windows and no back seats, a filthy white 66 Mustang eaten alive by rust. Those cars weren't for driving. They were props in his favorite game. He would release a woman inside the old barn, lock the doors, and hunt. The screaming, the hiding, the inevitable capture, he lived for it. His last girl had been Polly, long blonde hair that smelled like peaches at first, and then, days later, like hay and pennies. She was buried now behind the big rocks at the bend in the creek. One blistering afternoon, a plume of dust rose on the horizon. A battered white pickup rattled up the long drive of the abandoned Myers place across the road, a house empty since the old man died in 2017. Jack lifted his binoculars. What stepped out made his breath catch. A woman, short, choppy black hair, faded jeans hugging strong legs, white wife-beater, black bra visible underneath, boats taped in red clay. She moved like she already owned the place. She unloaded heavy duffels, boxes, a BB gun, and then, impossible, she looked straight up the hill, straight into his lens, and waved. A small, knowing, taunting wave. Jack lowered the binoculars, unsettled for the first time in years. Her name was Meg. Meg was not prey. When she was 12, 3 older boys had dragged her into the woods and destroyed her childhood. She survived. The rage never left. It grew teeth. Now, years later, she hunted the hunters. Dating apps were her lure. She built profiles that promised submission, feistiness, whatever fantasy men wanted to hear. When the messages poured in from the ones whose words dripped entitlement and threat, she invited them, and they never left. She rented the Myers house cheap, scrubbed it top to bottom, wiped every surface until it gleamed. The kitchen table, heavy, solid oak, was perfect for restraining a body. The chairs were sturdy enough to bear weight and struggle. Everything was ready. Her first mark in the new place was Chris, tall, thick-shouldered, pretty boy smirk, profile bragging about wanting spirited women who know how to please their man. They met at a dive bar. She laughed at his jokes, slipped the drug into his beer, brought him home, tied him to that oak table. But Chris woke up faster than expected, snapped the zip ties, and ran, naked, bleeding, barefoot, straight across the road and burst through Jack West's front door. Meg followed, gun in hand. Inside Jack's house, she found Chris cowering in the kitchen, and Jack calmly dragging a fresh corpse up from the basement. Callie, the girl from the pet store who had shown up uninvited with a bag of dog food and 2 trusting eyes. Jack looked at the intruder, then at Meg, and simply said, "Hi." Meg raised the pistol and put a bullet through Chris's forehead. The sound was enormous in the quiet house. Silence followed. 2 predators staring at each other across a spreading pool of blood. That night, they buried both bodies together in the back hills. They talked. Jack admitted to 15 women. Meg didn't give a number, only said, "I only kill the ones who deserve it." They laughed. Real, shock laughter, because for the first time either of them had met their mirror. Dinner came next. Jack grilled steaks medium rare, roasted potatoes, fresh corn, wine from Meg unspiked, for once. They circled each other like wolves, testing, teasing, half in love and half ready to kill. The air crackled, then the dance turned violent. Meg drove a fork through the back of Jack's hand and slammed his face onto the still sizzling grill. Skin bubbled. He roared. She ran. He chased. All night they fought across the farm. She fled into the old barn, armed herself with bear spray, clothesline, anything she could grab. He came after her with a baseball bat, half his face a ruined mask of burned flesh, one eye swollen shut, grinning like a demon. They crashed through rusted cars, shattered windows, overturned workbenches. Blood painted the hay. She blinded him with spray. He shattered her knee with the bat. She garroted him with the clothesline, until his eyes bulged. He choked her against the Mustang, until her vision blackened. The final showdown happened inside an ancient Winnebago parked behind the barn. Jack had her by the throat, lifting her off the floor, her boots kicking uselessly. She found a jagged shard of broken mirror on the counter and drove it upward under his jaw, through his tongue, into his brain. Arterial spray painted the walls red. Jack staggered back, still smiling that terrible smile, and collapsed. Dawn found Meg limping home, every bone screaming, covered in blood that was mostly not her own. She stood under a scalding shower until the water ran clear, then sat on the porch with a bottle of whiskey and Casey resting his big head in her lap. Her phone buzzed. New message. New profile. Michael Flay. I like women who know when to shut up and do what they're told. Meg took a long swallow of whiskey, scratched Casey behind the ears, and typed back with steady fingers. When can you come over? She smiled at the sunrise. The hunt never ends. Only now, Meg was the one at the top of the food chain.